So I'd be shocked if the Steelers don't take a wide out at either 21 or 60-ish, wherever they pick in the top 2 rounds. Who are the names you like? What do your rankings look like? I mean, it looks like there could be 10 to 12 names that that fit that bill in the top 60 or so.
Yeah, I think that's going to just be the way it is for in perpetuity. There are a bunch of guys, and I think that if I try and think about comparing it with the skill set with DK Metcalf in this offense with Mike McCarthy, all right, like who are some guys that would make some sense there? I will say, like, Mekhi Lemon is a player that we'd be talking about most likely first round there. He's undersized, and how is he going to test at that size? He's not running here, and I
could be small and slow.
You could be small in the NFL,
right?
And you can win. You could be slow in the NFL, and you can win.
Yep.
It's tough to be small and slow.
Yeah.
And that's at every position. Like I feel that way about everything. So, and it's not to say that it's impossible. It's just really hard. And so if we're talking about, I'm big in like range of outcomes with all these players. Like there's a chance that all these guys could develop into being great ones. But with the range of outcomes, if we're talking small and slow for a lot of these guys, it's tough. I will say, his physicality, you really like. He catches everything. He's immediately transitions into a runner after the catch. I think that there's a skill set there that that can apply and transition well to the league. But what's the upside? Are we taking that guy in the top 20? Right now, he's in every top 20 in every mock draft.
If any of those top 10 or 12 on your list, is there someone you're higher on than most, you think, than consensus?
I would say if I'm looking at my receiver stack right now, I mean, the one guy that would be really intriguing, and we've seen the Steelers go down this route with Martavis Bryant, with George Pickens.
Are you going to say Fields?
No, I'm going to say in terms of the Fields would be one guy, absolutely, honestly. But Chris Brazzell from Tennessee, I mean, he's 6'5", he's 210 pounds. He runs.
He's
going to
run like the wind here,
Like watching that Georgia game, early in the season. In Tennessee, they give it to Georgia offensively. They gave it to that defense, and he was a big reason why. When you see the height, weight, speed there, there's a lot to get excited about. I think he's going to be a guy there's going to be a lot more buzz about him leaving Indianapolis.
Okay.
Do you group guys like it felt last year when the Steelers were, looking for that defensive line help, and I think wide receiver is this year's defensive line for the Steelers. They'll address it probably in free agency and the draft.
Right.
But it felt like there was a group, and Matt and I were kind of talking like if the Bengals had nabbed Derek Harmon, does that group now dry up, and now you're looking at second-round talent, and what do? Is there a dry-up point in the first round? Or would you even evaluate this and say, look, we can get a guy in the second round. We feel just about as good as in the first round.
Yeah, and I think that you're always having those conversations usually happen late March, early April with teams, where it's like, all right, let's workshop this. Would you rather have this pass rusher in round one with this wide receiver in round two, or let's flip it and we're going to have this receiver in round one with this pass rusher in round two? What's the most ideal outcome? I think most teams now kind of operate in terms of buckets, in terms of tiers, the way that you described it. Where all right, like we've got four receivers that we feel good about in this range, and we've got 2 pass rushers, and then it starts to dry up. I'm just making numbers up. That might try and dictate what your ideal path is in terms of trying to acquire those guys.
In free agency. So if you go out and get Jalen Naylor, for example, then you're probably looking more high end. If you get Romeo Doubs, maybe you're like, okay, we can wait till the second or maybe third round. Does it dry up for you in the second or third round, or transition into another phase of more like throwing a dart at a dartboard kind of thing?
I think a receiver. Honestly, I'm looking at my stack right now. It's pretty meaty when you get into like round 3, round 4 type of range. There's plenty of names, and it just comes down to like what you're looking for. There's the undersized speed guys, but then there's like the big possession type guys. I think this draft is plentiful. I've watched 37 receivers so far this draft cycle, and it's a good group.
So who's the best small speedy guy, and who's the best big guy of the category you just
small speedy guy? I really like Casey Concepcion, and he's right on the book. Like, to me, the Steelers would be like the ceiling in terms of draft ceiling, how high he could go. From Texas A&M, third-year player, was a great punt returner this past year, began his career at NC State, was really productive right off the bus as a high school recruit, transferred to A&M this past year, and he was awesome. He was one of the leading receivers in college football, dynamic, inside, outside, yards after catch. Yeah, he's had issues with drops, but he's a good separator. I really like Concepcion. In terms of like pure speed, Probably go Deion Burks. Some people like Zachariah Branch as well. Deion Burks began his career at Purdue, transferred to Oklahoma. Zachariah Branch was at USC, transferred to Georgia. Both guys, small. We're talking like sub 5'10", but they're gonna be 4'3", 4'2" types. And so, with Branch, everything was screen. It was like over half of his targets were screens.
His average depth of target was insanely low. Yeah.
Everything was underneath. So this workout will be big. Not necessarily like I'm expecting him to run well. But what does he look like in the field work when he's throwing these deep balls? I want to see him track it because we haven't seen him do it in college. So I'm excited to see that.
So he's a second-round guy.
I think second, third round. So again, like he's in. I know Mel Kiper had him in first-round mock draft, so it's possible. I personally feel like it's probably more likely he's in the day 2, early day 3. As far as the other archetype, like the bigger body guys, Denzel Boston is probably the big name in terms of the big body contested catch type from Washington. Junior. Questions about separation, which you're going to get. Malachi Fields would be another one from Notre Dame. Was one of the best receivers down at the Senior Bowl. I've been hearing one of the things, and Matt knows this. When I go out the floor and talk to these players for these interviews, I'm asking them about teammates, guys going back to school. Because these guys it's all scripted answers at this point, talking about themselves. So I want to hear them talk about others. I've been hearing about Malachi Fields since his freshman year at Virginia. The guys just rave about all the intangibles. He was a high school quarterback who came in and moved to receiver and made an impact right away. Play special teams. He's going to block. He's going to do all the dirty work. He's a great kid. But also 6'4" and was a legit deep threat for Notre Dame this past year. So.
I love receivers with a special team background. Go down and tackle. I'm not talking about returns.
Yeah, no question.
Right.
I think you just described Chase Claypool.
Yeah, well that's the thing. It's like
he had his moments.
When you take the intangibles with Fields and you take the intangibles with Claypool. Probably a little different.
Who was phenomenal as a rookie.
Yes.
Claypool. And I remember us raving about after they draft, look, he covers punts and tackles people. And then he gets to Pittsburgh, hit a 4-touchdown game against the Eagles, I believe.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And then it just went away. You never know.
It's funny. I was filling in for Bill Hillgrove before I became the play-by-play guy. I had to fill in for Bill, and I called his first touchdown, and I thought, I wonder if this is going to live he's going to be Canton one day, and that's going to be people would be playing that
touchdowns
back.
later.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So I have a question about receivers in general because it feels like this is 2 years in a row now in which there doesn't seem to be that consensus, even though Ted McMillan, I think, went high last year.
Yep.
That consensus, wow, this guy's no doubt. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Who else was it Dunze in that class or others? Mm-hmm. But anyway, more guys that you felt like were Jamar Chase stratosphere. Sure. Why is it? There's great depth, but teams are throwing the ball all over the place. Why aren't there more legit? Everybody, ballyhooing this guy as a future number one.
Yeah, I think that JSN. He was obviously outstanding this year, offensive player of the year. There were questions about him when he was coming out because it was the size. Is he a slot receiver only? How?
Sure.
And so he ended up falling outside the top 10 for that reason. The class that I think of was the one 2 years ago where you had Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
You had Malik Neighbors and that was a Dunze. All three
right.
went in the
That's
top
right.
10.
Yeah.
Harrison was viewed as slam dunk.
Yep.
He was that guy and is underwhelmed so far. Obviously, the offense and quarterback, it's layered there. So we'll see what he looks like this year in a new ecosystem. But Neighbors, and that's the thing, is when I look at Carnell Tate from Ohio State, he's going 5, 4, 6, 8 in mock drafts. And I'm like, I really like Carnell Tate. I think there's a lot to like about the player. He's not Malik Neighbors, as a prospect. He's not Jamar Chase, who went fifth overall. So in terms of what, I think it's just a weird year. Next year, Ohio State's got Jeremiah Smith.
Then we're not going to have this conversation.
He's a slam dunk. All intents and purposes, he's going to be a top 3 pick. So it's just one of those things where a couple years in between where we don't have that elite guy at the top.
Fran, last thing I got for you is there a defensive tackle that could distinguish himself as the clear number 1 and can convince me to use number 21 on? I'm sure this week could go a long way.
The one would be Peter Woods that I would like, from Clemson. So he was a top 5 player for me coming into the year, and he's top 5 player for a lot of people coming in. Clemson overall underwhelmed this year, and Clemson as a lot of those individual guys did not meet expectation. I would say with a lot of them, watching them, I'm like, the level of play didn't fall off. Right, it's the same kind of guy, but we know sacks can be fickle. Hey, you had a bunch of hurries, you didn't get home, whatever. The coverage wasn't great in the back end. When I watch Peter Woods, He wasn't as strong as with an anchor at the point of attack. There's been a lot made in the last couple of weeks about it. He cut weight purposely, and so he was a little.
He's
bit
more of
lighter,
an
a little bit
upfield guy,
leaner.
though, right?
Yeah. But last year, when I watched him as a sophomore, I mean, he was like two-way, like a dominant player. I comped him to Tommy Harris.
Oh wow!
Like I loved Tommy Harris when he was with the Bears. Like this is a guy that I think that had that ability to be a dominant interior presence. When I watched him this year, the anchor got worse, but then even like the effort and urgency like waned late in the year. So come here. If you're going to be light, you're going to be that outfield disruptor. If he blows the doors off the testing, then we're probably talking about him like, now we're back in
you
like
can't
top
see
10,
Caleb
top
Banks
12.
being that guy.
I think with Banks, and I really liked Caleb Banks. He was a top 15 guy coming from the end of the year. He had a basically with Caleb Banks, began his career at Louisville, transfers to Florida, became a starter, run defender first. And it's actually funny. I wrote last summer. I was like, I wonder if he could be this year's Derek Harmon, where he comes in and it was like the stars align. He takes off as a rusher because watching him last year, great run defender, and the pass rush got a little bit better as the season went on, but it wasn't quite there. I'm excited. Upward trend. Well, he got hurt at the end of the season, 2020, last game of the regular season, missed the bowl game, missed all of spring ball, had surgery, gets into the summer. Was kind of lingering. They weren't sure he's going to be able to go. Missed the first 2 games. Came back for LSU. Suffered another foot injury. So had to get another surgery. So I'm talking about an older player, 24 years old, late breakout. Athleticism is good, but not like special. Lack of production. 320-plus pounds with foot stuff.
Right.
Ugh.
Senior Bowl wasn't bad, though.
That's the thing. So he fights back, comes back to play for Florida, even though they fired their coach. The team wasn't great. So you love that. Goes to the Senior Bowl. I thought he had a solid week down there in Mobile. If he comes out here and he has a great week, that could help him. But I don't know that he'll get up to like top 15 where maybe I was hoping before all this injury stuff really came to the front.
I think that with the Steelers sitting at 21, and we're talking about this and we're looking at their roster overall, to me it doesn't look like a roster with, outside of the wide receiver position, absolutely glaring needs.
Yep.
It would be wonderful if you could put yourself in a position where you would have a luxury. Maybe you re-sign Asante Samuel and Pierre, and that obviates the need to have to get a corner.
Right.
Maybe you sign a Romeo Dobbs. You don't have to get a receiver. If you're at 21, is there a position you think that, or a player that might be, okay, we don't have to take him, but he could be the kind of difference maker we'd like to take because other teams in front of you are going to be drafting for need?
I think about the 2 safeties, Fran.
Yeah, right. That's
maybe the Oregon kid.
The kid from Toledo?
Toledo and Oregon.
And Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, we know, like, and Matt, you and I have had this conversation in the past. Like, the Steelers have historically been a big school program. But when they go into the lower levels, it's typically people with guys within their footprint, within like a. Within
they got MAC connections.
Connections, right? And so I think of Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as a guy, like, honestly, when Quinyon Mitchell was coming out, I was like, I'd watch Pittsburgh on Quinyon Mitchell for that same reason. I would say I'm looking at even
because that name interests me as a safety, and then you just plug him in.
I think is going to be really good this week too.
There's another guy. There's another guy.
Thieneman will test well. I'm excited to see what he looks like here this week. Patrick Queen's entering a
it's a good linebacker
year.
draft, right?
It's a good linebacker.
Well, you're not going to get Sonny Styles.
You're probably not getting Sonny Styles. I can't imagine him falling past like Tampa. Really, I mean, he's going to go to Dallas. Would be my best guess. But I'm looking at the rest of the depth chart here.
Because I'd like to see the Steelers get
consider the Georgia dude,
and even if it's off position, like safety, although that's becoming more in vogue. I mean, the Steelers have done a great job of getting guys like DeCastro and Faneca, great players at positions that aren't necessarily valued, like, say, offensive tackle or corner or receiver are.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that you can. And I know that there are people in that building that believe this, like building inside out, investing in the trenches, O-line, D-line, like that is the way to go. And in terms of building a sustainable winner, and so I would never rule that out. I think.
Is there an offensive tackle maybe?
Oh, there's. I think to me, like in right where they are. That's a fruitful area for offensive tackle.
Interesting.
So,
the Penn State guard could be there too.
The guard,
to replace Ciamali,
I think Ioane would make a lot of sense. I think that, and he's a guard only, so that might impact the value for some. He's not a guy that I think you're kicking out to tackle. He's not really snapped in the past, so he'd be
put him at left guard hopefully for the next 10 years.
Exactly right.
Which is fine with me, right? Like if you make a couple Pro Bowls.
You mentioned DeCastro, like that's kind of the archetype.
Yeah.
Right? I think that when you're looking at that tackle though, Monroe Freeling from Georgia. I think you look at Caleb Lomu from Utah. You look at Maxi Honachor from Arizona State.
He infatuates me. I mean, put him at guard for a year or whatever. Just learn.
I mean, honestly, when I watched him in the summer, I envisioned like this exact path where it was like, hey, you know what? Like it's because all right. So he didn't play football in high school. Didn't play it until he got to junior college. So plays it in junior college. Then he gets recruited by Arizona State.
Wasn't it like soccer? He had a lot of different
soccer, basketball. He came over from from Nigeria. As a kid. And so didn't play football. Learned how to. So the first season in junior college, he learns how to put his pads on and tie his cleats. Second year, they throw him in. They throw him on the field. And they're like, oh, block that guy. Gets recruited, immediate 4 or 5-star JUCO recruit. Ends up at
special
Arizona
athlete.
State. Unbelievable athlete at 6'5", 320 pounds. I'm like, all right, like the film is going to be up and down again because it was his 3rd year starting this year. But, man, he's going to go to the Senior Bowl. He's going to flash there. He's going to go to the Combine and blow the doors off the Combine, and then he's going to be a first-round pick.
Right. I envision him like the Steelers left guard and then the left tackle next year. Right.
And I'll tell you what, man, like the question that people are going to have was like, oh, like basketball, soccer, like is he tough enough? He scrapped with every guy that he went up against in Mobile. If you had questions about that, I think that would quell some of those concerns.
We should probably let him go. We could talk to him for hours and hours.
We could, and we're grateful for the time he has spent with us. So. Fran Duffy, All-City draft analyst. Fran,
and your draft guide's available right now, right?
Yes. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. So I got a couple things. So I got the we call it the Die Hard Draft Guide. You can go on my social channels at FDuffy NFL on Twitter. You can find me on Blue Sky, Instagram. Always kind of pumping that. We actually have a sale right now going on this week during the Combine.
I'm signing up.
To go and get access to that. I've written up. I've got 400 players in the guide, and I've written up 250 profiles on players from.
And you're just adding and adding and adding.
Constantly adding and evolving. So like literally every note, every interview nugget gets thrown in over the course of this week. So as I make changes, they get changes. I've got the All NFL Draft newsletter. You can subscribe to that. That's free. You get an email from me once a week with all the NFL draft stuff that's in my head any given time.
Awesome.
That sounds
a lot of
fun, man. That's great. Fran, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.